Look, you're starting to look like somebody, and I'm trying to. My brother's grown a mustache. No, I feel like you're on the team at Peaky Blinders. Like that's what you look. Yeah, like are you like a train conductor? I don't know. All right, Tyler.
Yeah, a
You ready?
lot of people say I look like somebody they know. I get that a
Yeah,
lot.
yeah.
What's going on, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Kicking with Crowder. We got an SEC special today, guys, and I'm joined by my new friend, Jake Crain from the JBoy Show. Man, Jake, tell everyone how you're doing today, man. Tell everyone a little bit about your show, man.
Yeah, Tyler, number one, man, I appreciate you having me on. Started really full-time about 10 months ago. I coached college football for 9 years, 5 at the Division I level. COVID hit. Used to working nonstop and was kind of losing my mind. We had gone through the early signing period, which is technically the real signing period now, and had signed most of our guys that we attempted to, missed out on a couple, but and then started doing it randomly, man, and it's just taken off from there. And been very fortunate to grow really fast. Got moved to a studio here in Atlanta pretty quickly. We get guys, just had Trey Wingo, Brad Nessler, Tim Brando, Bruce Pearl, Eric Musselman, Eli Drinkowitz. And, the thing is, I try and I do. We don't talk politics at all. It's straight sports, which I think is something in its own right that needs to happen more, which I've talked about before. But no, man, just talking about from a coaching perspective, it's not really all the generic talking point questions. I mean, we get into coverages, we get into schematics, we get into, philosophical things that go on, not only from practice structure to game planning to things that happen during the game and play calling. So we cover basketball, football, and baseball. Obviously, football is really hot right now, and we're always talking recruiting. Just had a show with Mike Farrell as well. So check us out. We're on Twitter and Instagram at The JBoy Show, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. It's The JBoy Show. And it's, we got some big stuff coming and heading to Media Day soon, man. So I'm excited.
Yeah, man, JBoy, he's a great follow on Twitter, guys. If you haven't already, go check his content out. Like he just mentioned, all those guests right there. That should be enough for you to know. He has a really good show, and he's very serious about this. And go check his show out, guys. So I wanted to bring you here today. So are you an Auburn fan? Is that you pull for Auburn?
Well, I think number one, everybody's a fan of somebody. For the show, I'm even as I can be. I do it like I was as a coach. I mean, if my father was an All-American at Auburn, I grew up at Auburn. Obviously, if I got to pull for somebody, to win from a fan standpoint, it's Auburn. But really from the show, I just call it like I see it. Again, I really probably catch most flack from Auburn fans because when I put out, these rankings, outside of the DBs, Auburn hasn't been on there outside of Tank Bigsby. And so, no, I do a little bit of everything all the way from Bama to Vandy, and we talk Auburn as well. And everybody's a fan of somebody.
Yeah, and I grew up Florida State fan. My dad graduated from FSU.
Okay. Nice.
He took me to Florida State games growing up my whole life, I was a big Florida State fan last few years. Haven't had much to talk about, so it really got me into. I coached high school football as well for 4 years here in Georgia. Played football here in Georgia, so I keep up with a lot of the players in Georgia, of course, and the high school players. You look at Travis Hunter out of the 2022 class. That's a guy who I was on very early on as a sophomore. I watched a lot of his tape, so I keep up with these kids for years. So I root for pretty much anyone from the state of Georgia. I'm going to root for you no matter where you go. I'm from Columbus, Georgia, so over the years you've had guys like Jarvis Jones, Isaiah Crowell, Chris Hubbard, Gabe Wright.
Believe me, yeah. Del McGee's boys over at Carver. I mean, I'm from Auburn. I went to Opelika High School, which, Central Phoenix City was in our region back when I was in high school. Now it's they kind of redrew
They're
the map.
A powerhouse right now.
Yeah. They've got some studs. It's when I came out, Orwin Smith was in my class, which seems like forever ago now, and Justin Ross and all just the monsters they got out there. So no, that's interesting.
Yeah, so I root for. So I kind of root for. I pull for Georgia, and I like Auburn and Georgia. So it's weird. So it's not like I'm a diehard for both, but I root for both teams. I like the connections to some of these schools. I'm 35 minutes, 45 minutes from Auburn, 2.5 hours to Athens, so I'm kind of right here in the middle of it. And then Alabama. You throw in Alabama, so that's what my sports podcast was started because of Alabama, Georgia, and Auburn. So that's basically the three teams I talk about. Now I will sprinkle in Clemson, FSU, some other teams, but ACC, SEC is the two teams I cover. And I want to talk to you a little bit about Brian Harsin. the first-year hire, Boise State. What do you like about him? What do you think that he's going to bring to this Auburn football program? And Gus Malzahn, he got a lot of flack. A lot of people want to see him replaced, but now we're going to see Brian Harsin's first year. How do you think he handles it?
I think what Brian Harsin brings, number one, is accountability. I think Auburn's been missing that. I think consistency. I think, raising the standard off the field, showing up to meetings on time, doing things the right way, but really the structure of it all. He understands you've got to put money in the recruiting department. He understands that, you have to sequence out. Nick Saban calls it the process. Kirby Smart has the blueprint. Jimbo has the blueprint. Sequencing out, we are trying to get a little bit better in everything that we do throughout the day. You're here, you're here, you're here. I know where you're at, and you get into the routine. You turned getting a little bit better in different areas into the routine. All of a sudden, you collect all those deposits at the end of the day as you get ready for the season, and you've got a ton of money and collateral stacked up in the bank to get ready for the year. So I think he's done a good job on that point. On the recruiting front, in the first year, it's always tough. The transfer portal, I thought they did a really good job outside of getting an offensive tackle. But when I look at a guy coming in, especially when you're coming into the nuclear arms race that is the SEC and the SEC West, these coaches have had relationships with these kids for 2, 3, 4 years, something that you just mentioned, keeping up with them. Brian Harsin hasn't. And it's hard to be able to warp speed that relationship or get somebody to give you their most prized possession, which is their child, for 4 years in the biggest decision that they've probably made as a family up to this point, outside of, death in the family and stuff like that. I understand that. So I think that's going to come on. They added Michael Riley-Ducker, a tight end out of Bellevue. They lost Jarrell Stinson, a guy that was recruited by the previous staff. It was a matter of time before he ended up leaving. Wouldn't be shocked if he ended up at Florida or even really UCF with Gus, the staff that recruited him. But I feel good about Damari Alston, 4-star running back. I still feel good about Caden Story as well at the end of the month. And look, recruiting, it's a momentum sport. That's what it is. You get a couple and the dominoes will fall, and I know people are stressed out. But on the field, looking at his staff, I love the hires he made. I love Derek Mason. I love Mike Bobo. I like the way they brought in guys from different areas while bringing in guys from the South. Because recruiting isn't just about going in there and sitting down and talking to somebody. You got to know where the hell to go. You got to know, am I wasting my time here? There's parts in Louisiana that you just don't go because LSU's not losing that kid. And Brian Harsin doesn't know that yet, but Derek Mason does. Mike Bobo does. These other guys do. So you got to be efficient in the recruiting process as well. And then on the field, I love what he does schematically, even though it's going to be Mike Bobo's offense. I think the tight end's going to be back in Auburn. And I'm not talking about the girls at Sky Bar on Friday night.
And that Derek Mason and Bobo were my next two little points right here. I think those are great hires. Going out and getting a guy at Vanderbilt, it's hard to win at Vanderbilt. Derek Mason did a pretty good job. Yes, he didn't win games, but he built that program, and they can get some good players here and there at Vanderbilt. So I think Derek Mason, getting him and Mike Bobo, and then you're going to be able to feature a guy like Tank Bigsby from Callaway High School, right down the road. You're going to be able to feature him. And what do you expect from Tank Bigsby in his sophomore year? And just to piggyback off that, I think this quarterback room's improved a lot from last year. Yes, you have Bo Nix, who didn't really take that sophomore leap like I thought he was. I really thought he was going to take that leap next year. Maybe you see it this year. But if not, you have two guys. You have a TJ Finley from LSU transfer, and then you also have the guy we were talking about the other day, Demetrius Davis, who I love a lot. I was talking to you, just a winner in high school, in Texas high school football. Kind of reminds me a little bit of what Jalen Hurts did. Kyler Murray, these guys are just winners.
I'll give you a comp you're going to love with Demetrius. De'Aaron King. They're about the same size. They play very similarly. And really, if you look, their throwing motion is unbelievably similar. I mean, it's incredible. But go ahead, Tyler. I mean, cut you off.
Yeah, and I mean, that's just, I just wanted you to hear a little bit about what you thought of all, Tank Bigsby, and then the quarterback situation kind of moving on. I just want to kind of what you think of that.
Well, Tank, I've made this known, whether it's on social, whether it's on the show. I think Tank Bigsby is the best running back not only in the SEC but in the country. I think he is a little bit leaner Dalvin Cook to me with the way that he plays, but he's a high stepper, and typically those guys like that, the backs that aren't short and stocky, or because Tank's got some length. He's not a short, stubby guy. He's got some height, but he runs with great leverage. He understands how to use his body. He's knees to helmet, kind of like Carnell Williams was, to be honest with you. Now, their body types are different, but he's basically knee to helmet. When I look at the quarterback situation, I think Tank's going to have a huge year. Auburn's going to have a lot of zone runs. I think they know their offensive line isn't good enough to go big on big and sit here and run the power and the counter down people's throat. Places like Alabama and Georgia and LSU, they can do that with some of the personnel. LSU, even though they struggled on the offensive line last year, in my opinion. But Tank's going to have a huge year. And when I look at Bo Nix, here's what I say, because it's one of the most polarizing arguments, not just in Auburn, but all the SEC and really in the country when you look at the quarterback rankings. But two things can be true at once. Bo Nix can need to get better in the pocket. He can need to make better decisions. He can need to stop throwing off platforms so much, throwing across his body, across the field. That can be true. But it can also be true that Auburn's offensive line hasn't been very good since he's been there. And people forget, Bo Nix beat Alabama and Oregon as a true freshman. Made the pass to win the game against Oregon in the last second and drove it down after the stop on 4th and 1. So he has ability. We've never questioned his ability. I really believe that Mike Bobo coming in, who is one of the best quarterback coaches in the country, you just look at his track record from Aaron Murray to Matt Stafford. I mean, go down the list. Even at Colorado State, they led the conference in passing, for a couple years while he was there. So he understands how to not only put the quarterback in a good position, but teach the quarterback to make decisions. There's nothing wrong with throwing the check down, Tyler. There's nothing wrong with throwing the check down. You watch Tom Brady and Peyton Manning and all these guys, they will check you down all the way down the field. And there's no problem with that. And Bo Nix really hasn't done that. But again, the offensive system that Gus Malzahn had from a passing standpoint was elementary, Watson. It was unbelievably elementary. And I think you're going to get a lot more play action, under center, slow rolling those DNs a little bit, still going out of the gun, utilizing Bo Nix's feet. And now that they have TJ Finley will not start game one. All right, this is a long-term play. This is a longer play to even out that room because you had Bo Nix and really you had Demetrius Davis. And you never want a true freshman having to come in to play quarterback outside of mop-up duty. But if he's the backup and something happens to Bo Nix, I mean, can you sit there and run Bo Nix as much as you want if Demetrius Davis is behind him? But now you put TJ Finley in there, it kind of opens up the kitchen a little bit in the playbook more. So I think that was a big ad. I think it was a big roster ad for that quarterback room. And I expect Bo Nix to actually have a good year.
Yeah, and Bo Nix was running around for his life a lot last year, like you mentioned. I mean, so people don't, pressure bursts pipes or makes diamonds. And last year it bursted a lot of pipes with Bo Nix. And I do feel like he is going to make that improvement that I thought he was going to make last year, that sophomore leap. I think he will improve this year. I think he holds on to the starting job. But Demetrius Davis is a guy long-term for me who I think could really be a starter at Auburn. I think he could possibly be better than TJ Finley. I do. I just think, watching TJ Finley last year, he's a 3-star quarterback. I think Demetrius Davis, 4-star guy. And TJ Finley is kind of makes a lot of the similar mistakes as Bo Nix when he's getting rushed and things break down. So that's something to watch out. Of course, JBoy thinks that Tank Bigsby is the best running back in the nation, and it's hard to disagree with that. So we'll move on and the defense, guys. We'll talk a little bit about defense. Smoke Monday, of course, we'll lead that defense, and we'll see what they do. We'll move on to Georgia, guys. Big expectations in Athens, and I'm not sure if you saw that little PFF football, the All SEC quarterback, thing going around on Twitter.
Yeah, I actually talked on a show about it the other day. It was very surprising.
Yeah. I did not agree with that. I would have figured JT Daniels or Matt Corral from Ole Miss would be, either one or two. They had Emory Jones sprinkled in there, had some other guys. I think JT Daniels is going to have a big year. You saw what he did last year. Got Zamir White, James Cook, Kendall Milton, McIntosh at running back. And then, of course, they're going to have to replace Pickens at wide receiver. But I think Jermaine Burton has a huge year for the Georgia Bulldogs. But what do you think of JT Daniels and also Kirby Smart? Look, you have all these top 3, top 5 recruiting classes. It's time to win the East this year and try to get that SEC championship. What do you think of their chances this year, and what do you think of JT Daniels?
Yeah, well, first with JT, I mean, I think he's the answer they've been looking for at quarterback. I think the mixture of him and Todd Monken, the OC, as the play caller, is going to relax Kirby enough to be a little, more vertical in the passing game early, take some more chances, spread people out some more because, you look at Georgia. their MO has been, run the pass, and we're going to beat you up and run play action, this, that, and the other. Well, now you got a guy that can sit back there in the shotgun and pick people apart. It's going to walk those safeties back a little bit. You don't have to go as much 12 personnel. You can be deadly in 10 personnel, but what it gives you is more balance. That's what you're always trying to achieve. You're trying to be balanced, because what does balance do? It makes the defense be imbalanced. Same thing in the other way. If your defense, if you can figure out the tendencies and you're able to run man and run zone and be fine in blitzes, you can cause the offense some problems. So you're always trying to achieve balance. I think JT's going to help him there, and he's just a natural thrower of the ball, and he's got moxie. And the big thing for them is keeping him healthy. That at the end of the day, you've got to keep JT Daniels healthy. I have Georgia winning it this year, not just the SEC, but the whole thing. And, I haven't been in media long enough to be, I was still coaching, as of last year, really. So I haven't been one of these guys like, oh, it's Georgia's year. It's Georgia's year this year. It's going to be Georgia's year this year.
That was me in 2019.
That's a lot of people. Well,
that was me in 2019. I picked them to win it all on my first year. So I've been doing this about 2 years.
There we go. Yeah, no. So when I look at this roster, I think it's the best roster they've ever had. There were question marks in the secondary. They answered those in the transfer portal with Darian Kendrick, Tyke Smith, who's going to be all world at nickel. They can move him around. He can play multiple spots. The front seven, Jordan Davis is straight out of Mordor, just an absolute monster. Just when he gets his hands on you, it's done. He's going to cause problems. And you add that, to Ojulari and just all the other guys that they have on this team. Kirby, recruits his butt off. But when I look at their schedule, Clemson's obviously a great test week 1. I think they win that game. I love taking them +4. I'm going to scream that from the mountaintops. I don't think money line's a bad play either. But I look at their schedule. Not super difficult. I don't think the East is going to be, I say very good. It's not nearly what the West is going to be. I think Georgia gets there, and I think they win the whole thing this year. And I think it is going to be due to being more balanced on offense. I really do.
Yeah, and their offense is stacked, but so as their defense is too, like you said, all 3 levels. Jordan Davis, and you got Nakobe Dean at linebacker, who he's going to be joined by some true freshmen this year. Molden Jr. from Paulding County, and then also Chaz Chambliss. I think those guys make an impact even on special teams, or they will get some playing time this year on that defense. They're that good, both those guys. And then they also, like you said, the secondary, Tyke Smith, the transfer from West Virginia, comes in, is going to play that, I think, star position for them. And then you have Keely Ringo's a name for me to watch out for, J-Boy, or Jack. I really think that he is going to, make that leap this year that a lot of people thought he was going to play last year as a true freshman. I think he makes that leap this year. Keely Ringo, a name to watch out for. So big expectations out of Georgia. I definitely have them winning the East, getting to the SEC championship. Haven't really thought much about that matchup with Alabama yet. And then I think Georgia's definitely going to get in the playoffs. They're going to have to compete with Clemson. Now, they can still lose that game and win the SEC.
That first game's an insurance policy. That's what it is.
Yeah, they can still – they just have to play competitive. They have to at least, like you said, cover the spread or just, probably win in a close game, 31-27, something like that. It's going to be that kind of game, I think. So either team who loses that game, as long as you compete, as long as you go out there and handle the rest of your schedule, I still think you can get all your, dreams and aspirations of the season done. So Georgia, Kirby Smart, can he win the big game? That's what we're going to be talking about throughout this whole year. So Georgia, I'm with you. I'm high on them as well. I expect a lot from them. And then we'll talk a little bit about Alabama real quick, and then some SEC questions, and we'll get on out of here. But Alabama, guys, it was just phenomenal what they did last year in 2020. The Najee Harris, Devontae Smith, you could go on, Mac Jones. All these guys, all these Alex Leatherwood. All these offensive first-round picks, they're going to have to replace. But it's pretty good when you can select all these 5 stars to replace them. Bryce Young, number 1 overall player, depending on what site you look at, 24/7 is who I normally use. Bryce Young, number one player in the 2020 class. A lot of people thought he may take Mac Jones' spot. Did not, but he's in for I think he'll be a sophomore this year. I don't think he redshirted. So Bryce Young will be the guy at quarterback position. What do you like from him? And also, what do you think some of these guys, Christian Leary, they have some guys coming in as true freshmen. What do you think of this Alabama offense this year? And can Nick Saban kind of get it done here, replacing all that talent he lost?
Yes. Any time with Nick Saban, I'm going to say yes. I've still got Alabama to win the West. And look, Bryce Young, what he brings, it's funny. Him and Mac Jones are really polar opposites. I mean, you couldn't really get any different. But it just shows you that they're recruiting the best player. That's what they're doing, and they're going to make him conform to what they're doing, and that's what great programs do. What Bryce brings you, obviously, he's a good passer. Bryce is a good passer. He's a really good intermediate game passer, short game passer. I still got to see him throw the vertical ball more. It's funny. It's kind of the opposite of Blake Sims. Blake Sims could throw the vertical ball, but really struggle with the intermediate and short passes. It's like guys that can throw at 95 miles per hour, but they try and throw an off-speed pitch and they drop it before it leaves their hand off the mound. So when I watch Bryce, the thing that is the most dangerous about Bryce Young to me is not beating you from the pocket. It's when the play breaks down and he extends the play, or he scrambles around and extends the play and lets those Alabama wide receivers turn it into a scramble drill. And then it's, you always have the thought of the quarterback run game. It's the reason I think Max Johnson's going to win the job at LSU. It's the reason I think Haynes King's going to win the job at Texas A&M. I think it's the reason Will Levis is going to win the job at Kentucky. When you bring that extra element of being able to run at the quarterback position, it puts the defense in a bind because you really don't have enough hats to account for him. Even though there's 11 on 11, when you look at it schematically, it's very tough to start adding guys into the box. Or then now, a guy's killing you on the scramble drill, whatever he's extending the play. Now you got to put a spy on him, which takes a guy pretty much out of what? Coverage. Yep. So if I'm running zone coverage, there's a hole in the zone, or I'm asking one guy to basically cover, an acre of grass to be able to stop it. So he brings that. I also think he just, he's got moxie. He's a winner. He's used to winning. I'm really interested to see how Bill O'Brien uses him, because he's not a big guy. He's not Jalen Hurts, who is a big guy that, if he takes a couple hits, he's going to be all right. Bryce isn't that big, so they've really got to be careful with him, because early, just like in high school, he's going to want to do this. First read's not there, I'm gone. I'm taking off. And, Nick Marshall got away with it because he was just a witch. I mean, you couldn't touch him. I mean, you just throw his invisibility cloak on. Does Bryce have that type of witch ability in the run game? I've got to see it, but he's really talented. And Christian Leary, I like Leary too.
I love watching his high school tape. I mean, when you watch his high school tape, you know who he reminded me of, like just at a guy at Wisconsin like years ago, Russell Wilson, in a sense, like the way he played at Wisconsin. Not really. I'm not talking like NFL Russell Wilson, throw the ball 60-yard dunk. Not talking that. I'm just talking about the way he can get out of the pocket, make plays with his feet. You look at the NFL, what they're looking for right now with guys like Patrick Mahomes, like guys Josh Allen, who can get out of the pocket, make these big throws. And, I think Bryce Young's definitely going to be able to, adjust to being in the SEC his first year. He got a lot of, he got some good game duty last year, mop-up duty. But that's going to help him moving forward. He gets the spring this year, and the full summer workouts, which last year, of course, we didn't have it with COVID, so that's going to be good for him. And I got Bill O'Brien and Steve Sarkisian both circled right here on my notes, so that's going to be big. How can they replace Steve Sarkisian at Alabama this year, and can Bill O'Brien be that guy to get Alabama back to possibly the college football playoff, or trying to repeat as national champions? You got Leary on offense. I talked about him. You got all these stable running backs. And then also another guy to look out for, Ja'Cory Brooks, another wide receiver, top talent with Leary. I think both those guys make impact similar to like what Jerry Jeudy did his first year. 700-800 yards here and a couple touchdowns. Of course, up front, they have Evan Neal, going to be a first-round draft pick if he decides to come out next year or the year after. Then they get the two offensive linemen, Latham and Brockermeyer.
Yeah, I mean, only two of the top in the country.
Yeah, they got two top 5 tackles. I mean, this is just they just rebuild and reload every year. Nick Saban, I love watching him coach the game of football. He's just such a motivator, and I try to take a little bit about what he says. Anytime I hear him talk, take something from what he said, because he's been through it and he knows exactly what is going on. So I have some questions. You kind of already answered this one. Can Alabama repeat in 2021? You kind of already told me you like Georgia there. So
but they still
Alabama,
can. I wouldn't. I'd put them second.
Yeah. And all right. So who is this year's Texas A&M to you? Who's that team that hey, they have some talent. I'll tell you my team after But just a team who can go 11-1, 10-2, shock some people in the SEC, and it not be named Alabama or Georgia.
Yeah, I think it can be A&M again. Just with Jimbo, we got to see the quarterbacks. It's tough to judge something you really haven't seen or don't have a big sample size of. But they've got talent enough around them to be able to do it again. LSU, to me, I think does really good as an outsider. I just think, coming off that natty in 2019, 2020 with COVID and all the people they lost and all the distractions going on. But sometimes, those distractions outside can bring a group together. A lot of people think it's just going to rip them apart. Now, if it starts going bad, that's when you start to worry. But sometimes, man, preseason, it can bring you together, gets everybody pissed off and ready to go, and you go out there and you just start headbutting people. And when I look at the talent LSU has, I love Max Johnson as a quarterback. I think the kid's fantastic. I think he fits what Jake Peets and DJ Mangus want to do at LSU, which is the RPO, the spread it out, run some zone read, be able to use the quarterback run game, whether it's power read, whether it's Q power, whatever. So I think LSU, but I'm telling you right now, I don't think they're going to go 11-1, but I am big on Kentucky this year in the East. I got them finishing second in the East.
Okay. And see, my team to watch right there is Ole Miss. I really think they have some talent. Now, they did lose the second-round receiver to the Jets, and they have Matt Corral coming back. I'm not sure if Plumlee's going to play wide receiver or if he ended up going to the transfer. I'm not
he's
sure
still there, as I believe right now.
Still there. That's a good guy to have as a backup. Also, he's so athletic. You can try to get him on the field in some capacity. I like Ole Miss this year. I just think I'm not saying they're going to go 11-1, but I think Ole Miss has a real good chance to maybe go 9-3, something like that. Just surprise some people and end up in the top 15, and then really help out with recruiting moving forward. I think that's a team to watch out for. They did some nice things in 2020. They obviously had that game with Alabama that was a shootout. Yeah. And I think Ole Miss can surprise some people here. And then Max Johnson, going back to him, I loved watching him last year when he got in, and when he was going against TJ Finley, it was like night and day. I was like, man, why is he not in this game? Why is TJ Finley getting these snaps? So I'm with you on Max Johnson. I like him. Not sure if he can beat out Brandon, but we'll see. I guess I got a good
feeling. Between me and you, I got a good feeling that the decision's already been made.
Okay. All right. So hey, hitting you with a bomb right here. All right. So last question. So I'm just going to talk. It's not really a question. We got the 3 big games early on in the season. So you have UGA Clemson. We already kind of talked about that a little bit. Great for the ACC. Great for the SEC. Getting this matchup. I think Georgia and Clemson should play just about every year. It just makes too much sense geographically. So that's something to watch out for, UGA Clemson. And then we got Auburn versus Penn State, 3rd week of the season. That's something to watch out for. They're gonna white Auburn out, and that's really gonna see, hey, has Bo Nix really taken that step yet? Ryan Harsin gets his first kind of big game at Auburn. So what do you think about that matchup? And then you have Alabama-Miami first week. Will De'Aaron King play? A lot of people are saying Miami even stands a chance. I'm here to tell you, I don't think they do.
Yeah. I'm taking Alabama minus 16.5 to the moon. I may put the rent on. I may empty my bank account and literally put it all on Alabama minus 16.5. They may run for 500 yards. I watched North Carolina. I know using the transitive property is hard, but Miami lost 2 defensive ends to the NFL. I don't believe in that defense. I don't believe in that front 7. They gave up like 650 rushing yards to North Carolina. It is ridiculous. And Alabama, even though those linemen are young, they will bulldoze people. And if Miami can't stop the run, and De'Aaron King coming off an injury against an Alabama defense that is going to look, once again, like an Alabama defense, I just don't see a way outside of, Nevin Shapiro showing up in a yacht and stealing everybody before the game that Miami has a chance in that.
And then Auburn-Penn State, what do you think about that football game? Penn State didn't have a great season last year, but it's still Penn State. James Franklin recruits well. What do you think about Auburn going into that hostile environment, and then Brian Harsin, kind of getting that taste of, hey, man, this is I know it's SEC football and you're going up north and playing in Penn State, but it's going to be a great environment, a great program kind of test for both these teams. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I love this matchup, and I love they did a home and home. I hate this neutral site bull crap for the first week of the season. That's why you play bowl games. You play bowl games at neutral sites. You want to go to a neutral site? Make the SEC championship game and go to Atlanta, then make the playoff or make a bowl game. We have these beautiful on-campus stadiums that cost a ton of money to upkeep, that this, that, and the other, and yet we're still going to say, all right, Georgia's going to play Clemson in Charlotte?
Yeah.
Like, the coolest thing in Charlotte was a spider that had a web. That's the coolest thing there. They should literally play the game in either Athens or in Clemson. I don't get it. I understand what they're trying to do, and some people like that, but I just don't understand it. Just save the pig, Charlotte, because that's about the only good thing that comes out of Charlotte. I'm sorry. That's just my opinion. I know we probably have listeners in Charlotte, but, you know, I like you guys, just not a fan of us doing this in Charlotte. The Hornets aren't playing. What are we doing? Like, is Clemson playing the Hornets? Like, I don't understand.
And I've been to the stadium. I've been to
the Panthers aren't playing. Like, it's not the
best. It's just a normal stadium. It's
like,
a normal
let's play it at home. Like, that's why I love this Penn State-Auburn matchup. Now, looking at the game, I know Penn State, I think, is a 7.5 point favorite right now. I just look at it and I'm like, if Penn State was so bad last year, and I know it was an aberration last year, y'all had like
all over that.
y'all had like 3 linebackers that ran 4.3, and y'all still couldn't tackle anybody. So you know, at the end of the day, you know, if you got to run 40 yards to catch somebody, you shouldn't be playing linebacker anyway. That's another thing. But I think Auburn's going to cover. I've just got to see it first. I've got to see the flow of the offense. I've got to see Bo Nix under center. I talked about this with Ryan Leaf the other day a ton, transitioning from the gun to under center. How not only, you know, everybody talks about the exchange. Which you should be able to take an exchange from underneath. A lot of it is the drop. It's getting your eyes in the right spot. You know, understanding that how you're going to have to feel it as it's going. So I think it's going to be a really close game. I'll know a lot more. You know, Auburn, you know, plays Akron week 1, which, you know, Akron is they've got guys on scholarship too. But at the end of the day, I do think Auburn's going to keep that a tight game. I just got to see it a little bit.
All right, guys. Well, hey, I know you got to get out of here. Jake Crain, everyone, guys, give him a follow on Twitter. A great follow. I know he's got his podcast and YouTube and Apple and all that stuff. So I mean, one breakout player though. Right before we leave, one breakout player from the SEC. That you're excited to see this year, not named Tank Bigsby?
Wow, that's a great question. Give me Darnell Washington at tight end for Georgia. 6'7", 265. A guy that moved a lot better in the spring game than I thought he would. I mean, to be that big, to be able to change direction like he does, I think he's going to be a nightmare in the red zone. He's Leonard Pope. He's legitimately Leonard Pope, who was an absolute monstar. And when you look at his game, and I think the way that JT's going to play it, it's going to be security blanket because Eric Gilbert is playing wide receiver. Okay, Eric Gilbert is not an inline tight end. He's not going to go kick somebody or seal on split zone, whatever. So I think Darnell Washington, the tight end at Georgia, has a breakout season.
All right, guys. So Jake Crain. Guys, give your show a plug one more time.
Yeah, man. Well, Tyler, this is great, man. I appreciate you having me on. We got to do this again soon. But you can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube. It's the JBoy Show, TheJBoyShow. On Twitter and Instagram at the JBoy Show. We're on Facebook as well. We're on TikTok. I'm still figuring out that as we go. You know, it's I feel like it's nothing but like 12-year-olds on there, so I'm trying to figure it out as we go. But now check us out. No politics, all ball. I tell you what, we got something great coming up in August, and I haven't told anybody this yet. I'm breaking the news. When the players go to August after the summer, they start fall camp. We are taking our audience through fall camp, from install to coverages to everything. We're going to take you guys inside the room to help you win the water cooler, and we're getting down and dirty schematically.
That's awesome.
Let me say that. So
and I love football from that. I love the schemes. I love everything about it. X and O's.
It's a language. It's a language of its own.
I'll definitely have to check it out. Yep. And we'll definitely do this again, man. I'll definitely contact you. And closer to the season, I'd love to have you back on, or come on your show, however you want to do it, man. Thank you so much for coming on, man. I really appreciate it.
Tyler, I appreciate you, buddy. You're doing a great job, and let's do this again soon.
All right, guys. I'm out.
All right,
let's
brother.
go.
See you.
All right. See you, man.
All right, buddy. Bye.
All right, bye.